Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear us?
Yes. So is
Great.
that Ryan Baker with you?
Yes, ma'am. He's the fellow to my right and your left. And sorry we're late there. We were on the wrong Zoom link. So we finally made it.
No problem. So I've read your flyer today, and I noticed that you have a 90% growth rate. It's increased. So that increased just from this past 6 months?
No, man, that would be 90% over where we were I guess 2 years ago. So we finished the 2019-2020 school year with around 170 students. And then we started the 2021 school year this past year with about 248, around 250, and at present, and went through the year with about that number. And then through new enrollment and strong re-enrollment period, we've picked up a number of students to where we're now at about 320 to start this year. So that translates to, from the ending of 2 years ago to the beginning of this year, or two school years, ending of 2 school years, we've seen about 90% increase, which is just lovely, just wonderful.
You have a waiting list?
We do in kindergarten and third grade, and about one or two apiece in those grades, and then just a few open spots in the other grammar school classes or grades from K-5, and a few open spots in middle school as well.
So that's something to be proud of.
It is something to be thankful for. That's for sure. Thankful for God to care for us and provide for us, and bring the families that are desirous of an excellent classical education grounded in Scripture, and we see that there's a lot of people desiring that and wanting that for their children, and so we sure are grateful. Absolutely.
Yes. Do you think more people are desiring that, considering the times that we're in? Do you think
I
that's
think so.
school?
Yeah, I believe so. I think folks that parents see the world changing pretty drastically and dramatically in a lot of different ways, and they want their child to be equipped to navigate and live in that world well, intelligently, and beautifully, and so they may look at the various options that they have to attain that and acquire that and achieve that, and they may see that wanting in some ways, and in a consistent narrative that I have in talking with families that are applying to the school and want to come to the school, and I ask why are you in looking to us as a possibility, and that's a consistent refrain of we want our students to be well prepared in mind and heart and hand to live in a different world than what we will be living, or what we are living in.
Right. I noticed that part of your mission is to seek truth and to be evidential. How do you do that with the kindergartners and the young children? How do you start them out teaching to seek truth in everyday life?
Right. That's a great question. We wouldn't do it by giving them syllogisms, in kindergarten. So we really try to approach it, what I would say, affectually and aesthetically. And we don't use those words with them either. But we really appeal to their imagination and appeal to their sense of wonder, and putting in front of them a world that's enchanted, right? A world that is beautiful and wondrous, and seek to develop in them a sense of desire for for the beautiful, because the beautiful is true, right? If the beautiful is true and the true is beautiful, and so we can access the true via the beautiful, and so I think we try to approach it in that way.
Right. So what is kind of the biggest challenge you have right now with some of the older students? Do you have students coming in from middle grade from other schools, jumping into classical learning? Are they having hurdles to jump?
They are. You want to talk a little bit about that,
Sure.
Mary? I don't want to monopolize the conversation. So.
What we've noticed over our 20 plus careers, 20 plus year career in private education, I think what you get is whenever you have a transfer student, whether that transfer student is coming from a homeschool environment or from a public school environment or even from another private school, there's always a maneuvering of the student's schedule in order to put them in the right classes so they have some introductory material to wade in with. There are particular classes that we teach here that are requirements because we're a classical Christian school. And if they haven't had some of these classical classes in previous settings like logic or rhetoric in particular, then they're going to need to take those subjects. And so sometimes you'll have students in different grades taking different classes in order to equip them and bring them up to the place where other students are.
You simplify that term rhetoric for people, because a lot of people don't understand. They think that's just a fancy word for knowing what the book says.
Right. Yeah. Well, rhetoric as a subject, I think, really revolves a lot around the ability to read and speak and write well. So speaking becomes a major component in our rhetoric classes, and we go back to the classical sources. We'll tap Aristotle and Cicero in order to determine what are those effective ways to speak and to persuade an audience in particular. So those are the things that we're doing in rhetoric class. We're also learning about the effectiveness of writing and speaking alongside the writing. And then on top of that, it's also a class that can involve a lot of interpretation, where they'll be reading political sources and interpreting the arguments that are built therein.
So children are learning how to discuss controversial issues that they will face in daily life.
That's right. Another classical component that we would integrate deeply into our school, and in our upper school in particular, but it's in both upper and lower school, is the idea of Socratic dialogue and Socratic discussion. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for clarifying that. Let's get on to talking about how your school is growing. I love the idea that the community is helping with the funding of this school, and you've raised 1.13 million. Is that right? And you're looking for 1.5 for the arts and athletics building?
Something in that ballpark, yes, ma'am. So the community has been, instrumental. I've had something pop up here. Let me on my computer. The community's been very engaged and instrumental, both our school community and then the community at large. We've been so blessed to be welcomed with open arms by the Village of Whispering Pines from the standpoint of the purchase of our property and the building on it. And so they've welcomed us with open arms and seen the value that an excellent school can have on a community. Then in the broader context of Southern Pines and Pinehurst, we've been fortunate to meet a number of folks who have alignment with the vision of what we want to do and produce in the minds and hearts and lives of students. And there's that sense of, yes, somebody thinks like I do, and I have some resources and means to support you in that. So please take this and make it make it abundant and multiply. And then the school community itself, with the sense of we see ourselves as the Latin phrases in loco parentis, in the place of the parents, and so we see the obligation or responsibility of educating students to be primarily residing with the parents. So we see ourselves as coming alongside, not taking the place of, but coming alongside parents in that endeavor and in that work. And so parents have come to us with that mindset. And so they, want to be engaged. They want to be involved. They want to come to the school and be involved in the classroom work and the different projects and programs that we do. And that was hard this past year in COVID to kind of say no to parents. You can't come on campus, and it was no fun at all. And so we're excited to be opening those doors up a little bit more this year, as parents can come back to be part and parcel of the work of educating their students. And so, it was just a neat experience of a lot of people pulling in the same direction.
That's wonderful. Do you have sister schools in other areas?
We do. There are a number of classical Christian schools here in the eastern part of the state, and also the state of North Carolina. I believe there are around 17 classical Christian schools in the state of North Carolina alone. And then if you travel north just a little bit into Cary and Raleigh, there are 3 very strong classical Christian schools, one in Cary, one in Durham, and one in Raleigh. And throughout the nation, our accrediting agency or national organization, the Association of Classical Christian Schools, is growing at a vibrant rate, something along the lines of 96 or 97 new schools are starting in the contiguous United States alone, and over the last year or two. So we're seeing a lot of growth, not just in our own little neck of the woods here in Whispering Pines, but throughout the nation, as people are experiencing that same thing that I've discussed earlier.
Right. Is the school evangelical based?
We are. So our school is overtly and unapologetically Christian in our commitments and assumptions. So our statement of faith is strongly in a historically orthodox perspective, a Christian perspective, and our teaching moves in that direction in all of our subject areas. We orient and integrate biblical truth into every aspect of what we do, and analyze and take perspective of that from the vantage point of Christian conviction. But we do, let me say, and the vast majority of our student body comes out of the Christian church. But we do, offer enrollment to students that in other respects are ready and able to join the curriculum that we're teaching, if they understand and align with the idea that we are going to teach all subjects oriented around a biblical perspective.
Right. What would you like for the public to know? The most important thing that sets your school apart?
I would say our fundamental assumption and commitment at the ground level at the beginning that Christ is Lord, and that all things orient around, emanate from, and find their meaning in the fact of the existence of the triune God of Scripture, and nothing makes sense completely unless and until that assumption is granted, and you move from there. So I think, from what would set us apart from other schools is that our commitments begin, continue, and end in that vein of the Lordship of Christ.
Thank you. Mr. Breaker, what would you say your favorite thing is about being an academic dean at Sandhills Classical Christian School?
My favorite thing is being able to interact with both teachers and students on an academic level and on a mentoring level, where we, I think, are learning more and more how to come alongside students with that enriching endeavor of aligning the whole person. We're educating the whole person. We strive to, in many respects, teach our kids how to think and not what to think. And so the engagement process is something that I deeply enjoy. I try to get in the classroom as much as I can. I'm able to teach some classes as well as observe a lot of classes and interact with both students and teachers, and that's constantly what we're striving for. There's a joy down the hall. There's a bounce in the step, and it's something that I deeply appreciate about our school and many of these schools.
That sounds quite different than the public school system.
Yeah.
One of the things that you just said really strikes with me, that you want to teach the children how to think instead of what. That makes me wonder, do you have on your questions, on your tests, do you have more discussion and paragraph opportunities to answer questions so they can explain how they came to the process? Or is it more, this is what we say, this is what you do, and this is the answer I want on the test?
Mm-hmm. The exact opposite of what you just reiterated. So the antithesis, for sure. We have ample opportunities for kids to engage orally as well as in written expression. On tests, we have oral tests, we have written tests. We try to engage the students on a level of virtue and not just content of subject matter. So there's a consistent classroom to classroom attempt and approach to for a full orbed perspective and approach on students as they are learning information and engaging the different subjects. To kind of unite and couple what Dell had said earlier about what's different, what do we want the public to know, and echoing it and just using different wording, I'd say there's a reason why we do things here, and that reason lifts everybody up in the building and gives them a perspective and a stance that makes pursuit enjoyable and an exciting process. So I don't know if I fully answered the question.
Oh, yes, you did.
Okay.
And I think everybody who hears you will be satisfied.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie.
Mr. Liechty going to join us today?
Well, he's right here. I can just turn around, and there he is.
Hey. I was satisfied just to have set this up, being the advancement guy who's wanting to, raise the level of visibility here in Moore County in regard to the school and what sets us apart, our distinctives. And really, I think I've told you this before, our distinctives are in our name, right? We're Sandhills Classical Christian School. Our DNA consists of those two things primarily, and then sort of how that gets fleshed out, right? In what ways is the gospel made manifest? What is classical, And of course, that gets broken down into two parts: how we teach and what we teach. So the classical refers to those two things. Our methodology is the how, and then specific classes you wouldn't find in another school. And even just the fact that our kids still learn cursive, and I'm not the one to really speak to this, but they're still memorizing times tables. They're still learning cursive. Some of the old ways are the best ways, and there's a reason why they lingered so long in American history and the education that we've provided traditionally, and we've for some reason moved away from. And I can't really speak to any of it more than that, since I'm not an academic dean, but I'm just a lowly development guy. Hey, I wanted to tell you, this isn't really part of this interview, but I want you all to get this on your calendar. Part of development here and making way and room for more students, accommodating them both, not just academically, but with the arts and athletics and things. We are looking out the window right now, and they're getting ready to line our new athletic fields. And on September 23rd, this is what you need to keep. On September 23rd, we're having our first football homecoming ever, and there'll be hundreds of people here, and there'll be food trucks, and families are going to be dining, and everybody's going to be gathering. But that's what we anticipate. I suppose that a variant could change that, but right now it's an outdoor event on big fields, and so we're very hopeful that we'll be able to come together as a community, celebrate God's goodness, cheer on the very first football team we've ever had. Go Lions!
The Lions.
Yeah.
What are their colors?
Navy and gold.
Navy and gold.
Yeah, navy and gold. And but if you all wanted to, we'd be real excited to have you all come out and maybe cover that first football homecoming ever in the history of our school. And it really just speaks to the way God's advancing athletics and the arts here, and just his goodness generally. And Dell Cook's the head football coach, so he wears a number of hats. But you're going to see a side of Dell. He's going to be he's not going to be in that blazer and that button down. He'll be out there with that baseball cap on.
That's
So
Right. What time of day is this?
that game kickoff's 5:30.
5:30. We hope to maybe move it forward to 5:15 to make sure that the sun doesn't go down on our party. But yeah, hopefully 5:15.
All right.
Yep.
And are you still planning to break ground on the Arts and Athletics Center this fall?
We are. It's got, like everything else in the building industry, it's got bumped a little bit. We were 6 months ago, we were shooting for a Labor Day start date, and then it got bumped to the 1st of October, and now it got bumped to the end of October. And when I talked to the construction company that we're working with, I said, what's the likelihood we're going to get bumped again? And he said about 0. Because he said that's my pessimistic date, starting end of October, November 1. So the date that they're saying they were going to be able to deliver that building to us would be at the start of the next academic year. So even though we're backed up a little bit on the front end, they're still pretty confident that we'll be able to start the next academic year with an additional 31,000 square feet of space for our students and faculty to enjoy.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds like you've done a great job of advancing.
God's good,
Yeah.
for sure. And after 20 years, I ought to know a thing or two. Just a thimble full of knowledge and God's goodness.